Everybody ready?
Ready.
Here we go. Good evening and welcome to the July 1st, 2020 meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. This meeting is being held virtually via Zoom video conference. Please be patient. We will do our best to be efficient and allow everyone to participate equitably. This meeting is also being broadcast and streamed online by FCTV in real time. As this meeting is being recorded by Zoom and broadcast by FCTV, please be aware of what you say, how you say it, what can be seen in your background. The chair recognizes the attendance of staff members, Jen, and our recording secretary, Susan, and the absence of our agent, Kevin Newton. The chair recognizes the attendance of commissioners, Jamie, Russ, Steve, Kevin, Mark, Peter, Pat, Betsy, and Courtney. For the record, the appointed alternate for this meeting will be Peter Walsh. To the commissioners for commenting, I will call on each of you at the appropriate time. Let's refrain from speaking over each other. I'll remind you that all votes will be done by roll call. When I call your name, state your name and your vote. To our public participants, there will be an opportunity for public comment for each hearing. If you'd like to comment on a particular hearing, you may submit any comments or questions via the chat function once that hearing has been opened. At the appropriate time, I will call for public comments and any submissions will be read into the record. The link and further instructions are posted on the agenda. All right, first up is minutes, June 24th.
Mr.
Anyone?
Chairman, I've read the minutes and I find them in order except for one correction on page 7, middle of the page. We're talking, it's quoting me, it says, it's logical to specify that it be compacted so it doesn't slope. The word is slump, S-L-U-M-P. Then it should be covered with loam and seeded. Other than that, they're correct. And I move their acceptance.
As corrected, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have one correction to make as well.
Okay.
It's on page 15. Let me move the document on. There's a comment by me in the middle of page 15, and it says in the second sentence, if the project doesn't comply with the regulations, and then there's another clause, but it should say if they don't comply with the regulations, then the project must qualify for a variance or the landowner must rebut the presumption. That should be inserted.
Okay.
That's it.
That's page 15 or 14?
It's page 15, halfway down, I think. It's a comment by me halfway down.
Oh, yeah, your regulations don't allow for the balancing of these two?
Yes, and then the second sentence should be modified with that insert.
Okay, so if you send that in to Jen, she can make sure that Susan corrects it.
Okay, I will do that.
All right. Do we have a?
I'll second that.
Okay.
Second with the corrections.
We have a motion and a second as corrected. Are there any other comments? Corrections? All right, Betsy,
Gladfelder, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Mark.
Gurney, aye.
Thank you, Mark. Maury's out. Pat,
Harris, aye. My dogs. Sorry.
send them in the air-conditioned room. Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. First up, requests for determination of applicability. First one is Elias Atamian, number 6, Ocean Avenue, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to upgrade to a Title V sewage disposal system with no increase in design flow. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we are recommending a -2 under the state and the bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
Bird, I move to accept the staff's recommendation.
Robbins second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Betsy,
Gladfelder, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Mark,
Bernie, aye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Russ,
Robbins aye.
Steve.
Patton aye.
Jen, are there any chat comments?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right, that is unanimous. Next up is Richard Manzo, 65 Mariners Lane, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to construct a 12 by 27 foot deck at the rear of the house and construct a 6 by 6 landing.
Yes,
Done.
Mr. Chairman, the staff's recommending a -2 under the state and the bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So moved.
Bird moved to accept staff's recommendation.
Anyone for a second?
Patton second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelder, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Mark,
Bernie, aye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Russ,
Robbins aye.
Steve.
Patton aye.
Any public comments, Jen?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. It is unanimous. Next up, continued request for determination of applicability. First one is Mary Ellen Pimental, 339 Carrot Shop Road, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to install a new Title V septic system with associated grading and landscaping. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we are recommending a -2 under the state and -3 under the bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
Thank you.
So moved, Gladfelder.
Bird, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelder, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Mark,
Bernie, aye.
Pat, Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Russ,
Robbins aye.
Steve.
Patton aye.
Thank you. Any public comments?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. It is unanimous. Next up is.
Mr. Chairman, may I make one small announcement? Mark, if you have trouble with your audio again, I emailed you the number. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Jinxed them. It was working fine. All right.
I know.
Reboot and everything.
Okay.
Next up, continued hearings under notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. First up is Les Chernoskas, 69 Paola Drive, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to raise, R-A-Z-E, an existing single-family dwelling and to construct a new single-family dwelling, to upgrade to a Title V septic system, to install dry wells, retaining wall, rinse station, wall and steps, and an elevated AC unit. And the quorum is everyone but Pat, to my knowledge.
Yes, that's correct, Jamie.
All right. Do we have anybody presenting on this?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I put Tom Bunker and Teresa Sprague up as representatives for the.
All right, thank you for the record. I'm Tom Bunker with BSS Design, and Teresa's down in the lower right corner. I see her there, from Blue Flax Design. I'll start off share my screen and have a couple of comments first. Share the wrong one. Do you see the plan?
Yes.
Okay. I have something else on my screen. Okay. We've been here, we've been before you with this plan a couple of times, and we were going a little back and forth about the planting in this area between the house and the salt marsh. The last time we were here, the area that has the gray dot pattern in it is what was proposed. That's 2,400 and some square feet, 22 square feet in this area. I felt I needed some help with the planting, so I reached out to Teresa Sprague at Blue Flax Design. And so I'll point out on my plan, this green area where we have this sort of an arc, semicircular arc with the green triangle at the top and the bottom of the plan is additional planting that Teresa has put in onto her plan. And I will let Teresa, I'll unshare my screen, and then Teresa can,
Okay.
I think, take her plan and share it and go into some of the details on her planting plan. All right.
Great, thanks, Tom. Teresa Spray with Blue Flax Design. I'm going to share my screen, yeah, let me share that. Okay, so what I'd like to start out with before I talk about the plan is just some photographs of the site and from my site visit, which I think will help give a little bit of background information of how we developed the plan that we have before you. So when we went out to the site, this was a couple of weeks ago, I think June 19th. And we're looking at, here's the plan right here, and I'm just going to pull up some photographs. So these are some images of the site standing in front of the building and then looking north. So I just want to give the commission a sense, and I know you've all been out to the site probably multiple times, but what I kind of see it through the what I was experiencing when I went out there. So I'm standing in front of the house that's to be demolished. We're looking at the stakes. We're kind of looking in the north direction over here, and we kind of look. And I think what you'll see here is, I'm going to show you some photos to the south as well, that what's currently existing is a really open swath of lawn as far as you can see to the north. And these are the oak trees that are currently existing. And then over here, when you're standing in front of the house and looking to the south, as far as you can see to the south. So this is kind of looking at the salt marsh, and then looking to the south. This is the house that's directly located to the south. Again, lawn right to the edge of the salt marsh. And here's the stakes for the limit of work, etc. on this plan. And then finally, looking at the marsh area that's existing in front of this property. We're looking here at the edge of marsh, and I really want to point out, so we've got a cedar tree here, and I want to point out this ground cover. So we've got, high marsh, we've got a lot of bacris, Spartina patens, Disticholis facata, and then we kind of move into this area that's, pretty bare, but it's being regularly mown right now and is transitioning basically right into then, as you look up the pathway, this is with my back to the marsh looking at the house, into the upland area where you see the oak trees. And if you look back on some of these images that I'm showing here with the house to the north, this one in particular, you can kind of see that the oak roots are a little buttressed. And here's this kind of demarcation line that we were looking at over here, where it really starts to transition from what would probably be, if this were not being regularly mown, high marsh area, and then into the upland areas that are currently lawn, and you see throughout. Okay, so with that, I'm going to bring you right into the plan and what we're proposing to do here. So along the edge of the marsh, what we're looking at first of all, just from a numbers perspective, 2,405 square feet is what's required. What we're showing here highlighted in green is a total of 3,328 square feet. And that's taking into account a 5-foot offset from each of the oak trees, which totals in this area about 900 square feet. Along the edge of the marsh, what we're proposing to do is allow this to go back to high marsh vegetation. So we're planting in some baccharis and some bayberry along the edge of the marsh here. And then with the goal of allowing that to transition back into that high marsh area, so that then we're moving right up into the upland area in the what's currently been mown and well manicured lawn. We're proposing a total of 297 shrubs and 11 trees. So there are 7 trees, I believe, being removed from the plan. We're putting some tupelos here, sort of at the edge of the high marsh on the north and south, because we've got some light gaps that I believe we can fill with tupelos. And then in addition, we're proposing some tupelos along the southern edge of the property, simply because we can't squeeze any more trees in under this canopy. We do have a precedent of some existing, or one existing Amelanchier serviceberry, so we're proposing to put in some more serviceberry right around the area where the one Amelanchier is currently existing, over in here, and then again on the southern property line. And then in the area of the lawn, what we're really proposing to do is get this back to an oak canopy understory. And again, what we're using as a precedent, and I want to share a photo with you. If you remember 213 C Pit, I think many of you were on the board when we did this property, this restoration. And I'm going to show you a couple of photographs from May 2017 of what's existing on this site. So this is a very similar site down on Sea Pit Road with the Sea Pit and Childs River moving in between, to what we're currently experiencing here, with an oak canopy and then a ground cover layer that's mainly made up of low bush blueberry and black huckleberry. So what we're thinking about long-term for management for this property is that once we stop mowing this lawn area, raking this area, clearing this area out, we're very quickly going to create a thick duff layer of oak leaves, similar to what you're seeing in these images here, and which really is conducive underneath the oak canopy to shade-loving, acid-loving, soil-loving plants, which then would transfer back into the huckleberry and blue bush blueberry and Comptonia plant community that we're calling out here. So with the total of the 297 shrubs, we're looking at 38 large shrubs, which consist of bayberry, baccharis, Virginia rose, and viburnum. And then 259 of these sort of understory shrubs that are appropriate to the canopy layer, so that we're really creating a thick, dense understory layer between the lawn edge and the edge of marsh. And then also recognizing that because this is low, and of course the commission is concerned about creep and lawnmowers moving in, we're also proposing to put in, as we've done on other projects, the single rail fence along the edge, so the transition to really demarcate this, this planting of the mitigation planting from the lawn, so that it prevents lawnmowers from accidentally or otherwise moving into this area. And then again, maintaining a 4-foot wide path through this area to the edge of the marsh, so that the property owners have access. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions about the proposed mitigation planting.
Thank you, Teresa. If you would stop sharing.
Yes. Oh, sorry. Thanks, Jamie. Okay.
Thank you. Jen?
Teresa, is there a reason why you didn't go a little wider with that more of a high marsh area, knowing that again, if that area had stopped, wasn't mowed, it would probably be salt marsh and high marsh?
Yeah, I mean, I think
Specifically with like the baccharis.
Yep, I mean, we could definitely go ahead and do another layer of that backers. We were really just kind of looking for that sweet spot of the transition zone because it moves pretty quickly from that sort of high marsh area right into upland. Um, you know, the other thing is that there's a significant and healthy stand of backers already existing at that edge of
Yeah.
marsh. And as we've seen with other projects, once we stop mowing it, it's going to kind of blow up in there. So at this point, I'm thinking that edge is going to find its own kind of equilibrium and it's going to be survival of the fittest.
Mhm. I mean, usually the staff would not be, you know, very supportive of a plan that's like mostly the 1 gallon, as Maury likes to say. They're like twig shrubs like that. Given that kind of oak canopy you have there, you have a lot of trees there, and you want to not dig into those root systems very much.
Right.
There are a tremendous amount of trees on that site. So, and you state the single rail fence in your note. They don't, is it depicted on the plan? I can't see it.
It
Like,
doesn't, you know, I'm
right
looking
in this
at it right
background.
now and it's in the notes, but it doesn't look like it's shown on the plan. So we can put a line, you know, something with a reasonable line weight that you can see. It's very clearly marks that out.
And where you're putting the Bacchus, it was some of those also disturbed areas where there was like oak and kind of like a little
I think there's a fire pit.
fire pit. Yeah, and that's where all that Bacchus is going.
Exactly. Yeah, that's all being removed.
Did you do soil borings when you were out there to find that transition zone?
We didn't. It's really just observation. So, and it's a pretty clear line. You can kind of see that first oak has that sort of buttressed root system, which clearly tells me that the water level high, and that once we kind of stop mowing, and you can also see that despite obviously their best attempts to get lawn established there, it's not establishing, and there's a reason for that. I think the salinity is probably pretty high, and and then as you sort of get to the west, the east of that, it very clearly and quickly goes into pretty established lawn, which is the other thing we're proposing, to actually come in and physically, like with a sod cutter, remove the lawn in there so that we can seed and then we can get good shrub establishment, and we're not fighting a thick, like well fertilized turf grass to get these shrubs established.
Okay. Those are only comments, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Russ, we'll start with you.
I'm good, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very comprehensive plan. Thank you.
Peter?
Jen, I don't think mentioned some things that were on the report, like the fire pits, the boat and ramp relocation, and the kayak rack location. What's the status of that comment?
So, well, we're removing the fire pit from the area. Yeah, I'm going to defer to Tom about the kayak rack. I don't know if that's something that I did not speak to the client about that, whether or not it makes sense to keep a kayak rack so that they're not putting their kayaks on the marsh. But I have to be honest, I don't even have a photograph of that, so I was not focused on that when I went out there.
I think that was discussed in the previous hearings, that all of that would be moved landward of the mitigation planting, as I recall.
Okay, no further questions.
Thank you. Mark?
In line with Peter's comments, I noticed those kayaks back there too, and I wonder if there's any intention to make a route or some way to get over the marsh into the water. It looks like that's what the kayaks are there for. And I don't see any indication of other than just walking across the marsh.
I can say that, well, obviously currently they use that. I've discussed it with Les that certainly is interested in doing some type of, a light penetrating walkway over the marsh to protect it. but we felt we'd try to finish with this permitting first.
I think something like that is necessary. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin,
No comments, Mr.
all
Chairman.
right. Courtney,
Let's see, as the resident curmudgeon, I have to ask a couple of questions. One is the trees along the edge of the property on both north or south or whichever direction it is, are they part of the mitigation here?
We are considering them as part of the mitigation. This lot has many intersecting buffer zones, as you know. So the A zone goes pretty far back, almost behind the edge of the house. And then the furthest tree, again, we're also trying to make sure that we're not getting too close to the septic system, which is close to the edge of the road. So the furthest tree is to the southeast of the septic system. We feel it's far enough away. We've chosen tupelos. We were originally looking at red maple, and I believe that's what Tom had previously mentioned. I think the red maple, the canopy is going to get too wide and it's too close to the house. The tupelos have a more natural vase-shaped canopy, don't get quite as wide, so I think they're a more appropriate tree for that location.
So, okay, and are you counting the canopy as part of the square footage of mitigation?
We are not. Only the area showing in green is counting as the square footage of mitigation. So there are some trees at the edge of the marsh, some tupelos that are within that area that's shaded in green, but the area along the southern edge of the property, along the edge between the house and the southern property boundary are not included in the square footage.
Okay, because the question is, does the owner of this property own the property to the north and the south?
No. Not
So
so.
what is to prevent the owners of the property in the north and south from whacking all those trees right up to the property line?
So that's why we've specifically chosen the tupelo, because I don't believe the canopy is going to interfere with the properties to the north of the south or the south, where oak trees tend to get a little bit larger, and they and as well as maple trees, and maybe more likely to drop things into the neighbor's yard that might cause them to not like these trees. As far as the trees that we're planting or proposing to plant on the western side of the property, we're really just taking advantage of the light gaps. So we're filling areas where there are not currently oak trees and where oak trees aren't shading out, so it will allow another canopy tree to grow.
The reason I'm all in favor of it, but the reason I'm asking is in a lot of our other previous cases that we come in front of us, we ask that these trees be set back from the property line for the very reasons that I've raised.
I completely understand. And the only thing that I can say to speak to that is that there's so many oak trees on this site that we can't fit them away from the property. So
How do
You're
you
all
feel
set?
about that, Jen?
There are a number of trees on this site, Courtney.
No, but I mean, you're okay with the plan as it is?
I mean, I'd like to see the area that along the salt marsh beefed up a bit, but I understand the constraints of the site, oak trees and the root systems, so.
No, I mean, I understand it too. I'm just trying to reconcile hanging over.
There's
the
no way,
next door.
Courtney, you can put more oak trees on that site.
Okay.
No, it's gonna be, it's
not
a
worried
really
about the
shaded
oak.
area.
I'm not worried about the brand. I'm worried about the canopy and control over it. That's,
Hmm.
I understand.
I mean, it could be tupelos, it could be birch, it could be oak, whatever, doesn't matter. It's the overhang onto the neighboring property that is an issue. Other than that, I have no problems with this plan.
thank you. Betsy?
I like the planning plan. I think you did a good job with what you have to work with.
Thank you.
All right. Are there any public comments, Jen?
No, Mr. Chairman, and we can condition the single rail fence along the edge of the mitigation planting. It is part of the planting notes.
So I
We
make a,
normal-
oh, sorry.
Go-
Make a motion, close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Mark? Mark, give me a thumbs up.
Pat Cooney, aye.
Thank you. Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
Steve?
No,
All right, it is unanimous. The hearing is closed. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, New Silver Beach Association, Inc., 0 Moses Road, parcel/lot number 00093A to 93E, 96, 97, 98, North Falmouth, Mass. For permission to perform maintenance, including minor grading, raking, screening, and cleaning of the existing coastal beach above mean high water. And Maury's not here, but she's not on the quorum, for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Michael Borselli, Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant.
Hello, Michael.
Mr. Chair, oh, well, hold on one second, Mike. Mr. Chairman, I've also promoted David OKeefe, who's I think the president of the New Silver Beach Association, so he can correct me if I'm wrong, who I believe wanted to comment the last hearing, but was not available.
All right.
Thank you.
Mr. Borselli, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to share my screen so you can see the plan.
Thank you.
I should be sharing a plan with you now.
You are?
Okay. I represent New Silver Beach Association, Inc., and David and I have worked on these plans together. You may recall last week we made a presentation, but there are some minor revisions that were made as a result, and I'm just going to run through those. There's two. First of all, there were staff comments about the location of some lifeguard stands. Last week at that time, there was a lifeguard stand within the right-of-way of Ocean View Avenue, and there was a lifeguard stand in the right-of-way of Silver Beach Avenue, which is further to the east. Subsequent to that, the concern about those being within the town right-of-way, both were removed. I think Jen observed that on both roadways, that they're no longer there. We submitted a revised plan, which is the plan I'm sharing with you, and it shows the one of the lifeguard stands being relocated to land under the control of Silver Beach, New Silver Beach Improvement Association. You can see it right here. The other lifeguard stand has been removed, and as of right now, it's not proposed in any position that we're planning at the moment. So I think that solves that problem. Also, I had mentioned at the last hearing that we got a late letter from the Keeler family, who had been prior to your viewing of this plan, not been participating in the beach cleaning process. And we actually talked about how we're going to not clean that beach portion when we're cleaning the rest of them. But the good news is the Healers did late arrival letter say they want to participate. That was submitted to the file. So we are now indicating with leaders from this note that they're participating. So all of the properties, including the town of Falmouth and the others strips owned by individuals, as well as the New Silver Beach parcels, are all participating in the beach cleaning process. So those were the two outstanding items. I think that satisfies the concerns of your staff, and David and I are both here to answer questions.
Excellent.
Should I unshare the
Thank
screen
you.
now?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Jen?
Mike, any word on who New Silver Beach is going to be contracting with to do the beach maintenance activities?
I don't know that answer. Perhaps David O'Keefe knows that answer.
So there's two plans. One is the lifeguards are going to do real light maintenance, just to, and mostly like trash removal and things like that. And we're hoping that is the bulk of the needs for most of the summer, but then there's always a couple of weeks when the winds change and we do need an outside contractor. We have spoken to a vendor, and he's going to be able to meet all of our needs. And unfortunately, I'm just drawing a blank on the name of the company, but they do this type of work throughout the whole Cape. And I'm sure if I can come up with the name during this meeting, you'd probably recognize them.
Is it the gentleman? They're not located in Falmouth, correct?
Correct.
Is it the gentleman that contacted our office last year and then we realized you didn't have a valid permit? I think they're called Beachcomber. I want to say he's in Orleans, but I might be wrong.
That sounds correct. I'm trying to bring it up on my phone right now. I'm sorry, I should have had this available. All Seasons Beach Cleaning.
Oh, that's not the one I was thinking of. All Seasons Beach Cleaning. I've not heard of them.
Steve Ellard. So in speaking to him, he was very much attuned to the process and needing the order conditions and following those, whatever those guidelines state. He talked about his equipment and it being very similar to what the town uses on your own beach properties. And you got, very technical on the depth that he can go to ensure, proper, grading and maintenance and that sort of thing.
Okay, so Mr. O'Keefe, my concern is the sorting and removing of the cobble of the beach. So when he's screening the beach, we want to make sure he's just picking up that trash and he's not like sorting out the cobble. We've had some concerns with that over the last couple of years. So prior to him going onto the beach, I would like to meet with your contractor. I don't need to meet with the lifeguards, but the contractor on if you're going to be putting some sort of machine on that beach. I would like to know what he's putting on that beach. We can't have him have a machine that's going to be sorting out that cobble because that just basically increases your erosion risk because you're changing the volume, you're taking out what's holding that beach there and you're removing that. So we want to make sure that it's done correctly. So prior to putting a machine on that beach, we would like to meet with the contractor.
Sure. And I don't foresee that being a problem at all.
Okay. Also, the order of conditions will state, and the association was a little lax on this last time, is letting us know, just shoot us a quick email when you're going to be putting that type of equipment on the beach. So we know it's there and when we're not called out of the office by a concerned resident or something that there is a machine on the beach. So just a notification, a 24-hour, 36-hour notification to us that you're going to be doing your beach maintenance activity with a machine on the beach will be required. And we'll be tracking that. And if it's not done in accordance with the order of conditions, then next time you come for a permit, we might have a little bit of a problem.
Sure.
And
that's
when
fine.
you're
The plan is to have a set schedule once we engage with him, to have a set schedule to be like, right, we talked about like once a week, on Friday mornings, that type of thing. So once you've, approved this contractor, we can discuss a schedule and make sure that you're comfortable with it. So you're aware of the plan, well in advance.
Okay. And Mike, you have this protective row of staking with caution tape. That's not going to be up there all summer. So I think that should kind of maybe a few stakes and around the dune area, especially on, you kind of ended on the Murphy property and are not protecting that little mound of dune on that goes from the new and good properties. So we may
see that. Yep.
protect that. And I appreciate Mr. O'Keefe, you removing the lifeguard chairs. Thank you.
No worries.
And then a lot of the similar conditions, 10% of the rack will be required to remain, as I explained in the last hearing. And I'll explain it for you, Mr. O'Keefe. The rack is where our migrating shorebirds forage for food. We get a lot of complaints, well, we'll leave it in the wintertime. Well, the birds aren't here in the wintertime. They're in their overwintered areas. So they need to be able to store enough food and energy to make the flight back down to the Caribbean, where some of these birds overwinter. So it's really important to keep some of that rack and not just take all of the seaweed off the beach, because it is a food source. It's a valuable food source, and wildlife habitat is one of the interests that we protect.
Understood. Yep.
Okay. I think those are my only comments, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Let's start with Pat.
No comments. Thank you.
Peter,
No questions. Jen covered it all.
Russ,
All set, Mr. Chairman. I'm good with this plan now.
thank you. Steve,
All set. Thank you.
Betsy,
Oh, all set, thanks.
Courtney,
No comments.
Kevin,
No comments, Mr. Chairman.
Mark.
No comment.
All right. Jen, you're going to review the type of machine. So one of the concerns is the depth of braking. Okay. And then the frequency, they're asking for once a week.
Yeah, well, I mean, we can discuss the frequency. I think last order you gave them, you allowed them to do a once a week cleaning. I'm not quite sure if that's necessary, but we can discuss it. That's what was afforded the association, the last order of conditions. I believe it came back to amend, right, Mike?
That's my recollection. I was just
Yeah.
trying to look for it, but that's my recollection.
I think it was in the staff report.
And we're hoping that there's weeks that it's not necessary to even use the contractor. And typically for our beach, it's not until like mid-July, maybe late July, when the winds change, that we get a lot of seaweed. So there's weeks that we won't even need to use the contractor.
All right.
Mr. O'Keefe, did you find them through a website or?
He was a referral from one of our members.
Okay, we'll have to meet with him. I can't even find him online right now. So, you said all seasons?
Actually, you know what? I think All Seasons was the guy who contacted you last year. The vendor that we're talking to now is a different vendor.
The vendor last year was Beachcomber.
Oh, it was?
I believe so. Because maybe it was 2 years ago with Beachcomber. Because I met him out on, if you could get me the contact information and the machine information, that's important.
Sure, absolutely. And I'm sorry I don't have it at my fingertips. I should have had that in.
To be clear, that
Perfect.
would be conditioned, correct?
Correct.
Jen? Yeah,
Mhm.
the vendor and the equipment.
Mhm.
Mr. Chairman,
You waiting
Mike?
for a motion, Jamie?
No.
Okay,
Mike, are you guys clear on that? That the vendor and the equipment has to be provided prior?
Mr. Chairman, we're clear on that. I wanted to just mention one thing. While we've been talking, I pulled up the old order, the most recent order of conditions to clarify about the frequency, and it says, maintenance shall be performed not more than once a month unless approved in writing by Conservation Department. So I think it's appropriate for, that to be clear with the department if they discover they need to do the cleaning more than once a month.
That's fine.
Yeah, that's what it says.
presumably there's notification each time you're gonna have the cleaning, right?
Correct. Like I said, just as a simple email. It doesn't need to be a big formal letter or anything, just a simple note to the Concom that your general mailbox, that the machine is scheduled. That's fine.
Okay. Yeah, you just don't want to be surprised if somebody calls and you're unaware.
You would be surprised at how many times I've had to chase the machine down the beach because we weren't, made aware that they were going to be there. So
I have a question. So providing the name of the contractor is conditional on our issuing an order, or it'll be conditioned that they have to provide it before they start work?
provided that before they start work and that I meet with them, Courtney.
Okay. Want to be clear.
Yep.
Jen, are there any public comments?
There are no chat comments, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any further comments from the board? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Mark,
Ernie, aye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. The hearing is closed. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Mr. O'Keefe.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Mr.
Thank you
Chairman,
all.
enjoy your holiday weekend. Thank you.
You too.
You as well. Be
Yeah.
safe.
Thank
too.
you. Bye-bye.
All right, next up, request to amend the existing order of conditions. Louis T. Falcone Jr., 31 Point Road, North Falmouth, Mass. For permission to expand the size of the patio by approximately 178 square feet and to add additional mitigation plantings. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I promoted Tom Bunker and Teresa Sprague to represent the applicant.
Okay.
Thank you. Again, I'm Tom Bunker. Tom Bunker with BSS Design. I will start out with a brief introduction, and then Teresa will join in with talk about the planting. So I'll go to share my screen. 31 Point Road is a house that's now under construction. And so this is the site plan, what I've added, the plans that you see. What we're doing is this patio that's previously approved was sort of set into the house between the porch and the main part of the house on the water facing side there. This heavy brown line was the edge of the approved patio, and the brown shaded is what we're proposing to increase the size of the patio by 6 feet toward the water. The orange line is the outline of the former house that was on the property. So this patio is not coming any closer to any resource area than the existing former house was, and this 2-foot dimension is that it's actually 2 feet further back from the face of the house as it existed before. This entire area is proposed to be lawn, and then down the dotted area on our plan is all the mitigation planting. There's a patio itself is 178 square feet of expansion in this area. That's a brief explanation. There was a little bit of some mitigation planting added, and I will stop my share and let Teresa go on with it now.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. I'm going to share my screen quickly. I don't have too much to add to that other than I'm putting up right now the previously approved mitigation plan along with the letter that I submitted dated June 9th, 2020. So the previously approved redevelopment plans required 312 square feet of mitigation, and we provided that in Zone A. And then additionally, so the mitigation is kind of shown in this pink area here. It's kind of, just let me blow it up a little bit. In this pink area. And then additionally, as part of the original redevelopment plan, we proposed to remove 2,800 square feet of lawn and then replant it with mitigation planting. So we had more mitigation planting than was required under the previous redevelopment plan. But we also recognized we did meet with Jen, and we talked about the fact that we are still requesting a slight increase within Zone A. So as Tom was just showing in his plan, we were planting 10 additional shrubs on the south side here that directly abut the other mitigation planting, just to provide some additional mitigation planting for the increase in patio. Just to sort of update where we are in the plan, so the house is still under construction, but the bank restoration has been complete. The revetment is done, and the coastal bank was just this spring entirely planted. So it's been stabilized, it was seeded, blanketed when the restoration work was completed, and all of the woody vegetation has been planted on the coastal bank. There's now water on the property, so we were able to get temporary irrigation out, and the coastal bank planting has been completed. As soon as the construction is completed in the upland portions, we'll be planting mitigation planting, which we anticipate will be this fall. I'll stop sharing.
Thank you, Teresa. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. There was additional plantings that were put on the property for the last hearing. A lot of those were grasses, correct, Teresa?
Most everything that no, it's all woody vegetation.
The extra vegetation?
Yeah, in the 2,800 square foot, it's all additional plantings. So it's mainly fragrance. It's mainly fragrant sumac.
Is that the sumac over there? Okay.
Yep, exactly. Yep, all this area that's kind of shown in green is all the lawn is being removed, and it's
I'm looking at. I brought over your plan, so I'm looking at it right now.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
The only concern is the additional plantings that are being used now for mitigation. Should be that woody material and not a grass layer. So if Teresa, if you're certifying that there's enough square footage with the sumac and the rose and everything in that lawn area, I'm fine.
Yes, absolutely. And then we're planting additional shrubs, so woody vegetation. So no grasses are being proposed as any part of the mitigation, previous or currently.
Perfect. Thank you for clarifying that.
Okay.
You're good?
Yes.
All right. Kevin?
No comments.
Mark?
No comments.
All right. Pat?
No comments.
Peter?
No questions.
Russ?
I'm good, Mr. Chairman.
Steve?
No comments, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Betsy?
Nothing, thanks.
Courtney,
My only question is, Jen, you're okay with the additional plantings going along the side of the house?
Yes, I am, Courtney.
Okay, no questions.
thank you. Jen, are there any public comments?
We do not have a chat.
Thank you.
I have
All
a
right,
comment, though, Jamie.
go ahead.
Teresa, it was nice to see the plants that were in there. It's nice to see that restoration area coming back to life.
Oh, good, great, excellent, thank you.
All right. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Thank you.
Walsh second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Mark,
Bernie, aye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
Excellent. It is unanimous. We are closed. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend.
Good night,
Happy 4th.
All right. Next up, vote order of conditions. First one, Lucy Greer, 77 Barneck Road, Woods Hole, Falmouth, Mass. Do I have that right? Yes.
That was the big dune restoration on one side and then the management of the Rosa Rugosa on the other. I think some of the sticking points we had was the notes on the plan that said that they were going to keep mowing that south, I believe south, am I looking at it right? The bay, the harbor side to a height of 1 foot. They kept putting that kind of forward and we made them change the plan. So it'll be cut to a height of 1 foot and then managed to a height of 3 feet, that Rosa Rugosa stand on the harbor side. And then we jump over to the Buzzards Bay side, and they did add some additional stands of bayberry to address, I think, Mark, it was your concern. It was kind of like pushed off to the side and it didn't really, it wasn't really kind of like kind of flow and look natural. It was most of the grasses were right where the deck was. So they did add a couple of more big clusters of bayberries to make it more of a natural community. I think that was it.
Okay. For the record, I think Pat and Mark are not on the quorum, correct?
Hang
You
on,
have
Mr. Chair.
I'm not on
I
it.
have that. Hold on. It is Kevin, Courtney, Betsy, Jamie, Russ, Steve, and Peter. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion to accept as discussed.
I mean, I would like to say that I'll probably put a condition in that once they remove the invasive, especially on the dune side, that the staff go out and inspect. So I have an idea of what's going on. We've done that in other dune restoration projects, and it works out well.
Okay.
Walsh second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to accept the order of conditions as discussed. Any comments from anyone else? All right. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
All right. And we don't want we don't take comments. It's been closed, so the order is unanimous. Thank you. Next up, Joanne and Gary Perwalk, 233 Bay Shore Drive, North Falmouth, Mass. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is a raise and rebuild. It was pretty straightforward. The only comments that the staff had was those kind of very large shrubs and trees that are basically in that buffer zone B and inside that limit of work. They didn't have marked to be removed, but it's clear that that material is going to have to be removed. It's just oddly placed on the landscape. It's kind of overgrown. So, and they were fairly close to the house.
So I had one with that
So
tree.
you're looking, it's those little shrub areas that right next to the, it says 12.7 and 12.4. I think Mike showed some photos of them. I actually, hang on, I have some photos. No, I don't.
But he agreed to replace them in kind.
No,
if
he
necessary.
did, and he agreed. So it was a condition, just a replacement for that shrub material and a revised plan put in. And we'll approve the revised plan with the replacement of that shrub material.
And the other is the tree replacement. He was going to replace the tree removed with one tree, but it has many, like
Correct.
5 inch.
Leaders.
As
Yeah.
many meters as there are that many trees in it. And he mentioned like 5 to 7 feet, and they
Yep.
probably be smaller. A nice little cluster somewhere next to the other not mitigation, but buffer vegetation.
Yep.
Anybody have anything else to add?
No.
All right,
I'll make a motion. We accept as discussed.
Bird, second.
okay. We have a motion and a second to accept the order of conditions as discussed. Any further comments? All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Mark,
Bernie, aye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have an order of conditions. Thank you. And a reminder, there's no meeting next week. Hope everyone has a happy 4th of July and be safe. And I'll entertain one more motion.
Bird, move to adjourn.
Robbins, second.
Oh, I didn't think anybody wanted to go. We have a motion and a second to adjourn. Betsy,
Well, reluctantly, I'll say aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye, Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Mark,
Bernie, aye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. IT, please.